excruciatingly painful loss for the Sun Devils tonight as they were shut out for the first time since 2008 to Fresno State, getting the victory here tonight 29-0. Nick Borgia of Devil's Digest alongside our publisher, Hoder Bino. And Hode, I do not even know where to start. I mean, 8 turnovers. We saw 3 different quarterbacks, 0 points on offense, countless injuries. It just seems like every possible thing went wrong for ASU tonight.
Yeah, Nick, when it rained and pours, I think is not even strong enough of a statement to describe what Arizona State was going through. And look, we knew on the offense the significant injuries that they were dealing with. Starting quarterback Jalen Rashada was out for this game due to injury. Starting tight end Jalen Conyers out for this game, also because of due to injury. DeCarlos Brooks, the number 2 running back, but somebody who definitely was a big focal point of the running game the first 2 weeks of the season, also out with injury. We already talked about the offensive line injuries last week. There weren't any good news or improvements coming into this week's game, but this offense absolutely played horrendously. Trent Bourguet, last year's starter, does come in. Had very, very modest numbers, to say the least. Did throw an interception before he's injured and has to leave the game. So Drew Pine, the transfer from Notre Dame, was supposed to play at least 2 series in the first half to begin with. So he was called into action a little earlier, but really did not do much better at all. In fact, threw for 2 interceptions. He came out with what seemed to be maybe a re-aggravated hamstring injury, because as we know, he did injure his hamstring in the Camptown zone of scrimmage back on August 12th. This was his debut, obviously debut that he would like to forget. Throwing 2 interceptions. The 3rd-string quarterback, Jacob Conover, tries to come in, throws 2 interceptions. And look, I mean, when it comes to Rashada's injury and how much impact it had, just keep in mind that all week long, both Bourguet and Pine were exclusively the quarterbacks in practice. So this wasn't a matter of lack of chemistry, not really being on the same page, not knowing which plays they're going to run. They were part of the game plan from the first very step of the game plan until tonight when they did take the field. Was there some rust to knock off? Yes, I guess that's a valid element you can bring to the table, but I don't think it really excuses the performance of both of them. Jacob Conover, coming into the season being the 4th-string quarterback, I don't know how much you really would expect him to do. The offensive line, sure, they do have injuries, but they did not do anything at all in the running game to really aid the quarterbacks. And I felt that those quarterbacks were definitely under duress more often than not, and probably that led to the injuries for both Bourguet and Pine. But the thing that really disappoints me the most, Nick, is that this really was a chance at a bounce back, because you look at Fresno State and you give them all the credit and all the respect in the world. They did start the season 2-0. They did win on the road against the Big Ten team in Purdue. They are riding now the second longest streak in all FBS. It was 11 wins coming into tonight, and now it's a 12-win winning streak. But their defense was absolutely porous these first 2 weeks of the season. They were winning in shootouts. Both Purdue and Eastern Washington, for that matter, were scoring over 30 points. So that's why myself and maybe some others too did believe that ASU was able to put some points on the board. And here they are, not scoring in the second half against Southern Utah, not scoring in the second half of Oklahoma State, and now being shut out throughout the whole game against a Fresno State defense that on film was anything but menacing. On film, should not even given the offensive coordinators even the least bit of headaches. And it's just very disappointing that this coaching staff that was losing the chess match in the second half of the first 2 games of the season absolutely lost the chess match over here for the entire 4 quarters. If fans are speechless, trust me, I'm right there with you. There's really not a whole lot you can say about this game from an offensive standpoint. This offense just has a plethora of problems to deal with, and the injuries at quarterback, the injuries at the offensive line are not the crux of it. To me, they seem just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this side of the ball.
And the defense, how can we even fairly evaluate the defense when there's 8 turnovers committed by the offense? The defense is on the field for so long. They got thrown in the fire a lot, a lot of field goals that they were able to at least hold Fresno State to, but still, that defense on the field for so long, there's only so much that they could take.
Yeah, and it's ironic, Nick, because this defense started the second half just like they started the game itself. They were punch in the face, gave up a touchdown drive, and after that, it's all field goals. The rest of the first half and the rest of the second half. Yes, they did endure an offense that was turning over the ball 8 times, giving a very short field. And we talked about that in our preview a couple of days ago, that Fresno State offense is way too good to give him a short field time and time again. And that's exactly what Arizona State did. And ironically, all the field goals came off of turnovers. So even though this ASU defense was really saddled trying to bail out the offense turnover after turnover, they did not give up any touchdowns in the game due to turnovers. Again, it was just the first drive of the game and the first drive of the second half where they did give up touchdown drives. Now, not to sound too harsh on the defense, but here they are, week 3, and still not creating any turnovers whatsoever, this season. So as much as we talk about the defense bailing out the offense, generating turnovers, let alone scoring on a pick six or on a fumble recovery for a turnover, that's something the defense has to do to help out the offense even that much more. Now, if you want to say it's an unfair onus to put on the defense, sure. I mean, maybe there's something to be said about that. But it is disappointing that this defense is doing a lot, but still in the turnover column as really nothing to show whatsoever. And I don't think Oklahoma State was good enough of an offense to truly punish them for that. But I think Fresno State offense was a whole different story. Granted, it was really more field goals than touchdowns. But nonetheless, I don't know if this ASU defense is going to look at this game film and really have much funner time, for lack of a better term, compared to the offense. There are some definitely things to fix over there. We talk about injuries. A significant injury, at least on paper, for the defense, were Clayton Smith, their edge rusher, one of the best pass rushers on the team. He had his right foot in a boot when the game ended. So I'm curious to see what his status is going to be the rest of the season, let alone next week. But this defense, somewhat of a shining light, sure, but they really do need to create turnovers, if not sometimes even scoring the turnovers, because let's face it, this ASU offense needs all the help in the world.
So now looking ahead to next week, it just seems like ASU doesn't even have a chance to breathe. We're looking at the best team in the Pac-12 coming to Mountain America Stadium in USC. Caleb Williams coming to town, Heisman candidate. It's going to be a brutal test for ASU. How do they move forward after such a loss like tonight?
That's really a great question. I mean, I like to think that the ASU players and coaches think that this is rock bottom, and it really cannot and should not get worse than this. But when you have a top 5 team in USC coming to town, and they have aspirations for a college playoff berth, let alone a national championship, that is just a really tough test to start conference play. And honestly, Nick, I mean, I would expect maybe a shutout loss to USC rather than Fresno State. So now I think ASU fans are hoping that's not going to happen in back-to-back weeks. Look, I mean, there really is a lot for Arizona State to fix, and we need to see what the quarterback situation is going to be. I mean, I kind of doubt that Bourguet, due to the injury that he had, is going to play next week. So they need to rely on Drew Pine, and Drew Pine really has a lot to fix. Again, you can talk about all the rest that he needs to knock out and really get on the same page with the players that he really hasn't practiced for over 3+ weeks until he was practicing fully. But I think that's really first and foremost what needs to happen, and just the play calling. I don't know how much is left in their playbook to really present USC or any other future opponent with plays that they haven't seen yet on film, and maybe try to catch them off guard. But if they do have those plays, then they better come out in short order. I mean, I'm not saying that the USC game is really a winnable game for the Sun Devils. I mean, let's be realistic. But I think at this point, just not to be shut out in back-to-back weeks, which I don't know if even happened in program history, that is something that right now really has to be the goal. First and foremost, maybe tight end Jalen Conyers can come back to action next week. But I think more than anything, Nick, is you talk about all the physical injuries that this offense has suffered. but now it's really just the mental psyche and how much that is bruised and battered right now. I'm sure the coaches are really trying their darnest to maybe repair that aspect of the team, more than the physical team, which is really, up to the doctors and up to the human body, fast they think they really can recover. But it's obviously going to be one of the toughest tasks that ASU is going to face. And I'll end with this, Nick. I thought with this eight home game schedule, even if there were going to be some growing pains, some bumps and bruises, at least they're at home week after week after week to fix it. And it's easier to fix it, I feel, at home than it is on the road, whether you're 2 games in a row on the road or just even going every other week on the road. But it just seems that, being at home did not provide any, home cooking remedies, if you will, because this offense is absolutely right now just, wandering in this Sonoran desert, trying to find a fix, and he absolutely cannot do so. I don't know if I can be that optimistic for next week against USC for this offense to play better. But again, after what we saw tonight, which is an absolutely embarrassing loss, they have no other option but to play better and to try to bounce back against a team like USC. Man, I don't know if there's a lot of worse things in life than that, football-wise.
All right, well, thank you, Hode. Obviously, a lot of questions to be answered in this upcoming week. We will do our best to answer those questions, so keep it locked in at DevilsDigest.com. Drop a follow at Devils Digest on Twitter. Until next time, that's Hode Urbino. I'm Nick Borgia. We appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you next time.